listening to
What the Tech.
Welcome to the What the Tech podcast, where we talk about business and office technology and put our 20 years of expertise to discussing trends and issues impacting the workplace.
This podcast is brought to you by Global Tech Worldwide, your technology office experts that's been around for 20 years, providing trusted, personalized office IT solutions. Check them out at amazon.com/TECK. That's amazon.com/TECK.
Still paying for slow, outdated business internet? Why would you do that? Everything is so expensive in 2022. But listen, you might not realize you can go to circuitloops.com, instant quotes to easily compare with what you're paying for and find the upgrade that's right for you. It's that easy. Go to circuitloops.com.
And welcome to What the Tech. I'm Rolando, the founder of Global Tech Worldwide. And on this podcast, we discuss office technology and the pressing issues that affect the workplace. And as always, joining me on the podcast is my co-host, Dave Keller.
Rolando, it's great to see you. Happy official summer. I'm working on my tan. Looks like you are too.
Well, Dave, we're here to talk about Stephen Pope. Stephen Pope works with businesses to build online content machines, and he uses it through his company, SGP Labs, and he helps them create systems that can be put in place so that your content can flow on autopilot. I got a lot of questions about that I want to ask him around that. And, I came across his videos watching TikTok almost a year ago, and I got to say, I'm mesmerized by his style, his West Coast flair, his personality on camera. A lot of people, Dave, said that you shouldn't really, put a lot of your person into it. And now people are saying no, and TikTok has changed the game. And I want to ask him about that and how's it going. So let's bring him out so he could tell us more about it. Out of the green room, Stephen Pope.
What's going on, guys?
Stephen,
nice to be here.
Thanks for joining us today, Stephen. I'm glad you joined us. I talked a little bit about TikTok and your wonderful videos, but tell us a little bit about yourself and that journey, because I know everybody's got a story on how they came to be on TikTok or how they're starting their social media presence. Tell us a little bit about that and how you got there.
Yeah, so I'll give you the quick rundown. So I grew up an entrepreneur, really a software engineer, just always building stuff for people. And then I ended up building out a software development agency, and I grew that to several $1 million. And we were Inc. Magazine's, fastest growing companies. And I ended up selling that company. And it was really after that I looked back and I was just thinking about how that was built out. And it was largely built out on, obviously doing good work, but also with content, innovating, writing blogs, thought leadership blogs, putting our opinion out in the workplace. And then I also just started doing more research on how companies were getting built in the modern era. And you just see all this stuff with social media and video. And so I really got, and just marketing in general, like how do you market yourself? Like, how do you position yourself? And so some of these things are like old school, like, positioning, marketing fundamentals haven't changed. It's just kind of like how it actually gets executed now. And so I just started doing a bunch of like research. Number one, I had always been afraid of getting on video myself, like public speaking, those kind of things. And so I did make the commitment that I was going to figure out how to get on video. And so that, I started posting some videos on LinkedIn, completely scared out of my mind. And
I was going to say, you don't seem very shy now. You just laid it all out there, ball cap twisted back and, your sunglasses and everything and throwing up the deuce signs.
Well, some of that stuff just comes with practice, right? So, and it always starts with a commitment to do something. Like the one thing that I've kind of come to the realization lately is that everyone gets with camera and social media in general, like there's hangups for everybody and they're all a little bit different. And the one commonality for people that did get over it and are on there now is that initial commitment, because without that, it's hard to break through all of the other things that you'll end up having to get help with or practice without that initial commitment. So like what you're seeing now is just me being more comfortable on camera, really, and not not caring so much. We all get bombarded with what you have to do, and you should do this, or you
Yes,
should do that, or it
yes.
should be a highly produced video, or it should be a natural video with nothing. So you're just ultimately seeing, someone that has gone through the process and has figured out how to get on video, articulate themselves, tell little stories. Like even the story I just told you, that's something that I've told many times, right?
Yeah, no,
Uh,
you have a TikTok of you've have several TikToks like that telling that story. Is
yeah,
that something too that's something that you need to do is and I've heard people say you just you have to repeat your message because obviously
yeah,
people don't hear just one
yeah. You got to
TikTok or LinkedIn post.
Yeah, you gotta and you have to kinda see, like, where people are like, where it makes sense for people, right? Like, what I noticed when I started the next business and I would go out, I would say a lot of the right things. Like, I would say, "Hey, I'm gonna help you grow your business. I'm gonna help you get on video. I'm gonna help you do this." And they would nod. They would say, "Yeah, that seems interesting. That seems right." But it wasn't until I kinda crafted the story and explained, like, why is it that I'm doing this now, and why is it that I'm positioned to help you do it? And, like, tell the story in such a way that it made sense to them. And it wasn't until I started to do that and that I really started to get some traction because and I even remember there was one specific conversation I had with somebody and he was just being blunt. And he was just like, "This all makes sense, but, like, why are you doing this?" And then I had the chance to kind of explain, and then I had that epiphany moment. I was like, "Oh, you know what? People need to understand and connect the dots so that they can kinda see themselves working with you and going through that process and figuring it out." So, it was really all just like a journey really of getting yourself out there and testing things out and learning and being aware of what people say in order to, ultimately make it like, somebody figures out who you are, then they figure out what you can do for them, and they figure out that you're the guy to do it, and then what the process is, and then what ultimately happens after working with you.
And we're learning a lot, Stephen, about the importance of storytelling. People want to know where you came from, what is your story, why are you the expert, how is that going to benefit me? And through our journey within creating content, it's the engagement with telling a story that people want to listen to. And I find with a lot of the things that I consume, it always starts with a story, just learning where that person came from so that you understand why they're doing the things that they're doing within their specific posts.
Yeah, exactly. And what I also found interesting as well is that it is about you, but it's also not. It's really about them, and you're telling the story in such a way that it's so they can kind of see themselves going through the gauntlet, so to speak,
Right.
right? Because there's challenges ahead. So why are they going to connect with you and then really kind of divert their current path to your path, right? So like if you see two people going up a mountain and they don't know each other and they cross paths, you're gonna have to number one, you're gonna have to have some kind of banner that gets them to stop in the first place. And then they're gonna stop and then they're gonna ask you some questions and then you're gonna relate with them. You're gonna tell them this little story and then when they look down at the path again on that mountain and they see these two paths, what's gonna keep them from going on the path they were already going on or the one that you're kind of pointing to and say, "Hey, check this out. This is a better path for you, and I'll guide you up this mountain." And then at the if you go with me, we're gonna get to that top faster than if you go down that other path.
Interesting.
Interesting. Interesting. So it's basically getting people to maybe do a little bit of self-reflection on that. If you're given somebody's trying to decide between path A and path B, you need a little bit of reflection in order to get there. And sometimes you need some poking and prodding and people to challenge you. And
Mhm.
that's what I want to do next. I want to challenge you on the two videos that we picked out of TikTok from your TikTok channel. Or do we have those two videos? I believe we do. So
This is always
let's
funny watching
go.
these.
Which one do you want to start with? Let's see. We have one with Gary V. Copyright is already. I love. We were just talking about your flair. I want the good people that haven't seen you on TikTok. And I want your reaction to this, because you could have gone down one path, which is just, hey, marketing is great, and pick me, right? Like you're talking about, or you let your personality come through. You're talking about that epiphany, and I want you to tell us if this video that we're getting ready to look at with you, ask me anything, is after you've had that epiphany and decided to bring that flair to the table. Go ahead, Ori, roll that first video. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
Look
that's
at that.
funny.
You're
You
just
know what?
letting it hang out, like, no fear, no judgment, I don't care, I'm just gonna do this. I may not be MC Hammer, and that may be dating me a little bit, but I'm gonna put it all out on the table.
Yeah, like, 'cause here's one thing is, like, I definitely wouldn't have been able to do that, like, when I first started doing videos. I probably wouldn't have been able to do that if I hadn't gotten on TikTok, because TikTok, I think, kind of encourages those things. I don't I don't dance on TikTok on a regular basis. However, I think a lot like, and I'm not an aspiring dancer either, but I will say that, like, I think most people, like, they've always wished, like, when they felt the beat or something and they're at a party or something, that
Yeah.
they could feel a
Yes.
little bit more natural going out there and being confident. Not that they wanna be dancers, but that they can go enjoy themselves, and I think a lot of people are wallflowers, and so in that particular case, I don't remember exactly what, spawned me to do that, but, it's just like I was creating a lot of videos around, like, content workflow, and I just know with TikTok, like, when you do certain little things, like, you can capture people's attention, and
Right.
sometimes with video, like, there's a mixture, like, you notice I was also using that TikTok voice, and so I've had some
Yep.
experience with TikTok, and I was just I just experimented and just tried something out and went with it, and,
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah,
I
no, it totally comes through, and it separates you from a lot of other folks that get on there and talk about, I'm great because, I know so much, right? It's
Right,
a lot of that, and I think you've hit the right word, experimentation. People consume your videos all in different ways, and you don't have the same audience, unlike in Instagram, where it's the same followers.
right.
They consume your stuff all the time. And TikTok's different, where it's new. And so the people that may have seen you for the first time may have seen that video and been like, "Oh, I like that. I like that flair. Well, who's that guy?"
Well,
Right?
you might connect with the person that kinda wishes they could do that.
Totally,
Not
totally. I
necessarily
know.
dance
I
like me, but just, like, be willing to just put themselves out there, right? Like, there's something freeing about just being you, and,
There you go. There you go.
yeah.
It totally is. And before social media for me, I was about as private as you could get. I think I went on Facebook like once a quarter.
Yeah,
Same here in
me too, yeah,
Rolando.
me too.
Yeah, and when we had decided to take this leap a few years ago, it had started with we had rented out a television studio down in like north of Boston or west of Boston, and we did a live 5 or 6 hour show, and it was just going to be like an annual thing. So we did it 2 years
Mhm.
in a row, and then that turned into a weekly podcast for about a year and a half. And Rolando, I wasn't on Facebook. I had a LinkedIn account. It
And
certainly wasn't
I had an
TikTok.
account. It wasn't active.
Yeah, it's like I watched cooking shows on YouTube. I had no idea what TikTok was. I used LinkedIn very narrowly just to kind of network, and that was it. And I think for me, I had come to the realization. I said to my wife, at the beginning of this process, I said, you couldn't even find a picture of me outside of my LinkedIn profile on the internet. And I like that privacy. And she looks at me and she said, I have a Facebook page, Dave. I post about our family's vacations and our trips and our dinners and all these different things. And I just looked at her. I said, no, can you show me? And it was my whole entire life was already online. The only way you were going to find it is not by looking for me. You had to look for her. But that kind of opened it up. Okay, maybe I won't be so shy. Maybe I will try to do this. And it was
Yeah.
definitely kind of getting over that barrier so that we could start having more fun and be the Stephen Pope on the dance floor, not the wallflower thinking, hey, I wish I could be like that. I wish I was comfortable enough to go and do that. Quite
Yeah.
liberating.
Yeah, I think so.
I know that it's been a journey for us, and I do want another example of something. You're right. You don't do a lot of dancing, but to me, that's a video that just stood out in my mind. And I remember when you and I talked a while back ago. I said, I just see that flair that you got. It's just It's great, great, and it is in some ways it inspired me to let loose a little bit more. And I think everybody who's out there that is either aspiring to be on social media or is already on social media, letting more of your natural self will resonate probably better than not, right? Than just
Right.
being scripted. And this video here where we're talking about probably one of the most probably one of the hotter create content creators out there shows a different side of you. And I want to see what you think about this. Go ahead, Ori, roll that one. Right.
Yeah, that was
So this one is about you talking about how it's so easy that you can do this 1 to 2 hours a week, which is a really interesting pitch. And I saw that on your LinkedIn profile as well. That it's a 1 to 2 hour commitment that you need to have, and it seems like you've taken away a lot of the pain points around content creation. I know that for us, there's a lot of things that we go through as a team to get content out. And I know that starting is usually a big barrier of entry for a lot of folks and a lot of
right.
organizations. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, man, what I found when I started talking with people is like the biggest barrier was time. And so obviously if you're going to put on you're going to have your own big podcast and you guys are doing what you're doing, you got multiple people involved, you're going to be spending more than 1 or 2 hours a week to create the content and do
Right
whatever you
on.
need to do. So when I talk like that, what I'm thinking about is like, okay, how can you come up with some sort of concept where you are able to get on camera somehow? And the one thing that I realized is that just going on podcasts is probably one of the easiest ways. And so that
Well,
that
wait a
that
minute. Hold up. What? Wait, let me. I got you. This is a pro tip. Ori, let's roll it back a few seconds here. Let's throw down with a pro tip. All right. And then shoot it back to Steven. Steven, go ahead and say what you just said.
No, yeah. So one of the easiest ways is to just go on other podcasts, right? So I'm here, I can record this, and if I've got either some sort of team that has the skills on the back end, which it doesn't take a lot. Like could just be some software. You don't need you need a fancy video editor or anything like that. You can just go on to podcast, record it yourself, so that you're not reliant on the podcast recording, so you don't have to ask them for anything. You just record it yourself, which you can totally do. You can either record it through the computer that you're on, or you can record it off to the side, and then you can just chop up that content. And what's nice about that is that they're asking you the questions, right? So you don't even
Right.
have to like a lot of people get stuck on, oh, what am I going to do today? Or they try to launch a podcast just to get the content. And I think a lot of people get stuck because if you launch a podcast just to get clips for social media, it sounds great, but I think that's a little bit hard to sustain if you don't have like a purpose behind your podcast, and you really want to do one. And so, and also like if you start your own podcast or if you do videos, it'll be harder to do that in the 1 to 2 or 3 hours a week. So if you get yourself on podcasts and then you just figure out a way to record it, and then you just have some back end systems or help on the back end to help you get that clipped up so that you can publish it to social media, you really can get this done in a couple hours a week and have a lot of content. Because especially like on TikTok, you go on for a 45-minute podcast, you could easily pull 10 clips from that.
Sure.
You just get you just got to get a little creative. Like the person that's pulling those clips has to build that skill out a little bit. The
You
clip, where do you end it?
So
Mhm.
short form content creation, people they love the short form. It's easy to consume. But from experience, like, so when we started to do the short form content, I'm thinking, I wonder if this is going to be easier because we're looking at a 20-second video or a 30-second video. It's not easier necessarily. It's but changing with a mindset of how to go and extract that. But what's key lessons that you learned early in the game with the intent of having short form content?
Just that there's like a certain skill to like deciding when to start and end the clip. And like sometimes and also what you're looking for, sometimes you're just looking for like an energy, like an excitement, and also like how to craft the title, right? So like if you come into a conversation or a clip in a random spot, and there's no like context, it might be a little bit hard for someone to understand what you're talking about.
Hmm.
But if you add a title, you can add the context and then the clip will make sense. And then also understanding that also you're going to be testing different things, right? So it's a testing process. And some clips are going to bomb and some are going to be better. And so when you're
Hmm.
going through those clips, you kind of have to not judge yourself, not judge too harshly. Like I didn't that one clip you just saw did pretty well, and I didn't necessarily know that that was going to be the case. And then I have other ones that don't do that well, and I just get to learn from that process, and it's just an evolving thing.
So you don't beat yourself up when you don't get all the views that you want. I know that I know for me, that's the case that I'm my own harshest critic when I look at views. And it's a terrible thing to do because we all need to know, what's that barometer for does this do well or not? And then
Yeah,
obviously views or engagement is really kind of the barometer that we're using to see if it resonated with folks. But it's not the be on all end all because you have tomorrow, the next day, the following day. I heard it may have been Gary Vee himself that said that you need to take more swings in order to know if you're on the right track, something to that
right.
effect. So if
Yeah,
you're
basically.
putting out very little content, you're not going to get many swings at bat
Right.
versus those people that are getting more swings at bat. They're figuring it out. They're saying, "Oh yeah, when I do this type of hook, or when I use this type of intro, or when I use this type of sound, or when I use this type of topic, this is what's working best, and these are the ones to avoid."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I can't say that I never like get caught up in that or judge myself or So it's I wouldn't want to say that I'm invulnerable to that, but I do try to push through it because there's a lot of times where you could go through a podcast and you could get really down on yourself. You could say there's nothing in here. And in fact, I mean, I'll be honest, like a couple weeks ago that happened, and then I just put it away and came back a few days later and I was like, "Oh, there's a bunch of good stuff in here." And I pulled it out and then I started posting it. So yeah, I think a lot of all this stuff comes to there's a certain mindset to it. Like
And
you can't
Stephen,
judge
the other
yourself.
thing, the other thing that we have found with snippets and clips, we've some of our best performing clips have been from podcasts that were our long form podcasts that got some of the fewest amount of views. I had a guest that I went to school with in college. She's very dynamic. She's a great speaker. The podcast itself, like the long form, didn't get a ton of views. But when we took snippets and put it on social media, it's gotten some of the most views around,
Yeah.
even stuff from our first podcast where I'm sure go back and you look at your first pass, you're like, oh,
Oh
that's what
yeah.
I was saying. When I looked at my first one, I was like, oh, look back on it now. And some of our best clips in terms of social media have come from episode one.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. That's cool. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you also have to think too is like the way that people consume podcasts or a YouTube channel is different than the way they consume like a channel like TikTok or LinkedIn. People are just there, and your video just happens to pop up, whereas the other channels, like you have to grow those audiences, and
Yeah.
it's just kind of like a different ball game. So you could totally have videos that aren't doing well on a platform, but still have great content in them, just like your experience.
I want to ask you one more thing about tactics. I noticed that so you have some videos that are very short, 7 to 10 seconds. Some of that are on TikTok now. Some that are obviously longer than that. What have you found from a just an experimentation perspective with those shorter videos where it's really you're throwing out like a sentence,
Hmm.
like you did one on copywriting and that is overrated and so forth, and boom, it was over in like 8 seconds. What's been your experience with those really short form type of videos?
Yeah, I think it just kind of comes down to like tapping into a nerve of some sort. Like that video was interesting because I think number one, if you say copywriting is overrated, you're going to get a lot of copywriters that are like,
Mm.
you're full of it, right? And in fact, a lot of them did. And in,
Yeah,
and, it-
you
and in,
stirred up a hornet's nest there.
and in fact, when I really like, what I was trying to say wasn't really that copywriting wasn't overrated. So when I look back on it, even I can see it's a kind of like a hyperbolic kind of statement to make, right? I wasn't
Right.
necessarily really trying to say that good writing isn't needed, but that's what I said. And so therefore it's going to cause, it's going to cause friction out there. And so that was a good learning experience for myself. Number one, you know, saying something out there like that is going to definitely create a reaction. And number two, it made me rethink exactly how I said that video, because I didn't really mean it that way, but at the same time, it's like I kind of
You
did, but
didn't
I
really
did.
mean it that way.
I mean, I did and I didn't, right? Like what I was really trying to say was just like, for people that aren't true copywriters, it's like you want to just stay focused on, telling real examples and telling stories versus, you know, you know, trying to describe things. Because if you use examples and stuff, but anyways, yeah. So it's just, I guess what I would say is just like, if you make a short video engaging and it taps into something, those shorter videos can do quite well. And you really sometimes sometimes I think people feel like they have to get these big points across. They have to make these big convincing arguments. And I think sometimes they just lose people. And I think that some of the art of doing these short form videos is, it's not necessarily the length, but it is cutting out all the fluff and making it simple to understand. And doing whatever in your style, whatever will help capture people's attention and hold it.
You're right. You're right. You just have to find out what that is. And I don't know if you've paid attention to when I'm looking at the time here. Let me skip that. And we're running out of time. Dave, was there something else you wanted to ask Stephen before we go into rapid fire?
I just wanted to say what's fun about experimenting with things like titles is you could take that same video, Stephen, and instead of having it say what was it?
Copyright is
Copyright
overrated.
is overrated. You could say copyright is not overrated or something like that, just to see how it would be accepted or what kind of views. So it's those little tweaks that really maybe get a different audience. What was it? Maybe hit a nerve with a different group of people.
Yeah.
But just a second, 7-second video changing that title just ever so slightly could give you a different result.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that kind of thinking is is a little more methodical. And so I think everyone's different too. Like some people have a methodical approach and they'll go through their videos and like test different things. And I think that's really awesome. I think other people have a hard time doing that. And so I guess like, it's interesting because I coach people on TikTok and I give them ideas and I walk them through basic frameworks and encourage this or encourage that. But in the end, you're going to have to find what works for you. You might see other creators that do something. You want to look for opportunities that make you feel comfortable and get your point across, and then, get people interested. So, there are ways of accelerating all of these different things. How do you tell stories? How do you order the words in such a way that most people are going to understand? But then how do you come in and continue to bring it and make it your own? Because that's what's really going to do well, I think, going forward, is just, being authentic, right? Not everyone's Stephen Pope or this or Gary Vee or any of these different people. So you got to be able to do it your way.
Well said.
Putting your mark on the videos that you're putting out is definitely the way to go. And for us, I think we're still trying to get there, trying to find that voice. And I guess it's like you said, experimentation and getting to a point where you're like, yeah, this is where we're really hitting our stride. And Stephen, before you go, what we've got now is a rapid fire segment, so that we call thumbs up and thumbs down.
All right.
It's just, well, I'm going to give you a word and you tell me thumbs up or thumbs down. All right. You ready for this?
Just one word? Or
Yes, these things. So I'm going to
Okay.
ask you about a concept.
Okay.
And just tell me thumbs up on this or thumbs down.
All right.
All right. So the first one, podcasting, thumbs up or thumbs down?
Thumbs up.
Cold calling,
I couldn't do it.
trade shows.
For the right person.
Okay. LinkedIn,
Good place to be.
thumbs up for LinkedIn. Instagram.
Not as experienced, but I think if you can work it, I mean, I think every
Okay.
channel has
So
a spot.
that's a kind of a thumbs up, kind of a shy thumbs up.
I just don't have as much
All right.
experience with it, so I can't. It's hard
Okay.
for me to
Okay. TikTok,
thumbs up.
thumbs up for sure. Facebook, Good thumbs down. All right.
some people make it work though. I know lots of people on there that like kill it on Facebook groups.
All right. Ooh, I've lost my track here. Oh, here two more. Two more of the thumbs up, thumbs down. Twitter.
Yeah, I think Twitter's cool. I don't
Twitter.
use it, but I think it's
And
interesting.
okay. All right. And Pinterest.
I don't know anything about it really. So I'm just gonna say like I'm gonna do a thumbs up just because I know that if it's the right place for you, I think you could do really well there.
All right. Wonderful. So that's for our thumbs up, thumbs down segment. Now, these are just short questions. Creative agency, in-house or outsourced?
Creative agency. In what way? Like, should you use one?
Yeah. Should you use one? And if you should go, try to build your own in terms of maybe your own team or just outsource the whole thing.
Yeah, I think this is kind of an interesting question because like I work with people and like I do some done for you work with people that need help on their content creation, and then on other cases I'm helping them implement things for themselves. So I think this is a real important decision. I think if you're really thinking out long term and you're seeing where things are going, like having some of these basic skills in house is going to be to your advantage, right? So like if you might outsource specific tasks, but if you can make it work and you have the mental space, I think if you believe in where we're going, it's going to be easier for you to make the choice to bring some of these things in house. So like if you understand
Agreed.
marketing and kind of like where you're going, and because you're going to be able to move faster, do it cheaper, and do it more the way you want to do it, and only you know your customers as well as you do. So I think if you have that long term perspective, it's probably going to take you more time to figure it out, and it's going to have to be top down, right? It's like you, like so I think if you have the right perspective, you should probably start to think about how do you bring some of that stuff in house.
Right. So building a team is the way to go long term, from what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. This is a little more technical question, a little more blocking and tackling. Should you go cheap or splurge with a microphone?
Well, I mean, even the Shure microphone's only a few $100. I mean, and then you can get there's the other one that's like the MV7, I think. Uh, so I mean, spend a few $100 on a good mic, so you sound smooth, you know.
It sounds smooth.
I mean,
You sound smooth on the clips. All right.
if you're
Now,
if I'm talking to somebody that's like literally just has no budget and they're trying to get out there, just like do what you got to do,
yeah.
right? Because
Okay.
you can get a Blue Yeti that sounds pretty good. It's $130 or something.
Okay. Yeah. But definitely the if you can splurge, a couple hundred, get something professional if you can.
I think so. Yeah.
All right, cool. All right. Best motivational content creator. You have two choices here: Gary V or Tony Robbins.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, they're both great characters. I probably look at them for slightly different things, but I think, man, that's a hard one. I guess I'll just go with Gary Vee because I probably watch a little bit more of his content. I don't see Tony Robbins quite as much.
They both make you want to run through a brick wall, just
Yeah.
in maybe different ways.
Yeah, I think they have a different energy and a different focus.
Right, right. Last one. I think this is the last one. Let me see. Yes, it is. This is our last one. Very easy one for you since you're from the West Coast. Surfing or skating?
I guess I'll have to pick skating. I didn't actually do either, but I did have
Uh-huh.
I did have a skateboard and I did a little bit of it. And there was actually I always bother my kids because down the street from where I lived there was this place called the Pipeline, and it
Mhm.
was an old school. It was like back in the 80s, and they had all these pools, and kids would go gather there and would skate. And
Right,
eventually, now
right.
it's just an office building. I guess I have more affinity towards skating, even though I wasn't hardcore at it.
You did enough to be dangerous.
Yeah, I guess
Or
that's
not,
the way to put it.
or not enough of it to be dangerous.
Yeah, yeah,
To get,
exactly.
I
Yeah,
know, Dave,
exactly.
you got a serious accident skating
I
two couple
finally
years ago.
stopped. I finally stopped skateboarding 4 years ago when we started doing some of the content creation. I had never hit the ground so hard in my entire life with my
Oh
face.
man. Oh
And then
And we had
I
to go on camera, like
Okay.
what, 2 days later after that,
no.
3 days later after
Yep,
your accident?
yep. And I was hiding my face, and then we had the camera guy only stay at this one particular angle. But I
Brutal.
have not been on a skateboard since,
Yeah, that's brutal,
unfortunately,
man.
because I liked being the old guy on a skateboard.
That's brutal.
It is brutal. No, I stay away from that. That's not my thing. No, 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 no. No, I'm not a skater. I'm not a skate or die kind of guy. I don't have no problem with skating or even surfing for that matter. It's just not my thing.
Yeah, I
You got
think
to
that
know.
like skate or die. I think that's the way you want to put it is like I also used to have a motorcycle, and then I
Oh,
eventually sold it because it's just like I started to realize it's like at some point you're gonna have a spill, and like even though it's really
it's not
fun
going to
and
be good.
yeah, even though it's fun and I had a lot of fun with it, I wasn't a motorcyclist like that. I didn't want to die on it. Like it wasn't that important to me, so I got rid of it.
Yeah, I had a talk about crossroads from what you talked about earlier. I remember my first job. We got our first bonus, and it's either I'm going to buy a motorcycle or I could put a down payment on a house. I
Yeah,
really was like, when that was like 23, 24. I should get that motorcycle. It should be so much. It'll be a lot of fun. I made the wise decision of putting a down payment on the house on it.
nice.
But boy, that motorcycle was looking real good when I was looking at him. Like I could see myself.
They are cool. Yeah, they are cool.
But no, I decided to get the house. It was a good decision. I was able to make some money off of buying that house and then selling it later on.
Nice, right on, man.
So, Stephen, anything else you want to wrap up with? I know you got a hard stop. Anything else any thoughts that you want to say? How can people find you?
Yeah, so you can always go to my website, sgplabs.com, if you're interested in exploring TikTok, interested in learning how to, get on camera, repurpose that content, push content out to social media. It would be good to have a conversation. So go ahead and reach out. I'm also on TikTok and LinkedIn and YouTube, and you can always just find me Stephen G. Pope on any of those, and that's with the PH.
Well, Stephen, thanks for being such a sport for coming on today. We really love and appreciate your time. And thanks for taking some time and coming on the podcast today.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate you guys as well. Thank you for having me on and having some fun and asking me some questions. I truly appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to What the Tech. Be sure to check out our other episodes featuring awesome tech and amazing guests. Find them on circuitloops.com or wherever you consume your favorite podcasts.